What is up, podheads? Back with another episode of the Potty Slay podcast. My name is Tony, joined as always by Nate.
Hey, here to geek. What's up?
And Anthony.
I'm also here to geek. Yeah.
So
I'm in a
much
good
nerding.
place for it.
So much nerding. Let's go. How you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing good. It's what? Late night. It's about to snow, snowstorm. Yeah, I'm good though. Nate, are you good?
Yeah, main life, nerd life. Got to deal with the elements, but we still get to geek out. We're inside, so fuck it. Let's go.
Yeah, the nor'easter hasn't quite hit us yet, so we still have power. We aren't just living amongst the pines in the cold northeast as we typically are. We're nerding out like we do on this fine evening, and we had an all-timer again tonight.
Yeah, we had Chris Wrenn back. Chris Wrenn, I don't remember the episode number. Tony, you might?
It's 2.5 years ago. It's got to be in the mid 100s, so like 136.
Oh, that are okay. So we had Chris way back on. It's been almost 3 years now. We figured it was time to have him back on the podcast. But you remember Chris from Bridge Nine Records, founded the label in the mid 90s, also owns Sully's brand tees. You've seen those t-shirts everywhere. He just put out a book, Fenway Punk, How a Boston Indie Label Scored Big on Baseball's Greatest Rivalry. Just put out a book, and it basically chronicles his whole story, right? Him coming up in the Boston scene in the early 90s, starting Bridge Nine, hawking Yankee Suck t-shirts to fund the label all through the 2000s. And that story, how, as we say in the episode, they, one hand kind of feeds the other, scratches the other. And 101 story, book is everywhere. You can get it. And we wanted to get the whole behind the scenes on not only the book itself, but logistics. Like, have you ever thought to write a book? Where to start,
Nate has. Nate's been talking about writing a book for years. It's called Taking Notes. Don't steal it.
Trademarked.
Taking notes.
It was actually I think it was the premise to this podcast, really. Obviously.
It was. You're right.
So that's kind of where that was the napkin drawing / notes or whatever. But yeah, man, he actually did it, right? So he did the book and the label and the merch. So he's a jack of all trades. Incredible story.
It really is a crazy story. Like, it'd be one thing if it was just the story of how Sully's tees came to be, or the story of how Bridge Nine came to be. But the fact that they're so intertwined, and it was the time of kind of the biggest moment for the Red Sox Yankees rivalry, it's pretty cool that it was able to all happen at that time. And to hear, in the book, go buy the book, the links in the show notes, all that stuff and how it happened. We talk a little bit about it in this combo and how it came to be, but go get it, go read it, go figure out what happened, because it's a pretty wild story.
And Chris nails it too. Like we do talk about it quite a bit, but it's a one-on-one story that I hope gets turned into a movie. Like, if you don't read the book, if there is ever a movie, at least go watch that. It is insane story. And the fact that all three of us were kind of part of both worlds. I didn't tell Chris this, but it reminds me of the writing of Ben Mesrich. You know Ben Mesrich, the author. He wrote Bring Down the House. He wrote Busting Vegas, Rigged.
Accidental Billionaires. Yep.
Yeah, kind of these like edgy stories, like these one-on-one stories. And a lot of them, they're like the first of its kind, like before people caught on. And Chris's story reminds me of that. And the way he tells it is kind of written in that vein. And it's a story that, I don't want to say it writes itself, but man, it couldn't happen again. I don't think the Chris Wrenn story could happen again.
A lot of elbow grease, a lot of DIY, a lot of going to every Red Sox game and standing out there for years and just being, a mobile vendor, selling t-shirts, end up selling flags, all kinds of stuff. So pretty wild story. And we get a little, behind the scenes on how we started the book, how you go ahead sourcing that stuff, having to go back and figure out some of the memories and what the day was like, all that stuff. It's pretty cool combo behind the scenes on how that happened too.
Yeah, if you're a sports nut, you'll be into it. If you're a music nut, you'll be into it. And if you just like an edgy story, there's some wild stories that are almost even unbelievable that happen in the book that, like I said, I'd love to see it in a movie.
Yeah, it's the time capsule element, right? It's a time and place. He was there, the grit, the risk. He goes into the risk, everything. It's just a one-of-one story, like you said, Twan.
Let's get into it. Chris Wrenn, Bridge Nine, Fenway Punk, all kinds of stuff. Sully's right now.
All right, we are back. with Chris Wrenn. And Chris, before you get into this, when people ask you like what you do, what do you tell them?
Are you talking like civilians?
Yeah.
Like my parents' friends?
Yeah, Gen Pop people.
I tell them like I run a record label. It's an indie record label. Most people have kind of a general idea of what that is, but early on they didn't. I mean, it's been, I think there's been over the last couple of decades, there's been a better education as to what that is.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's been a while since we've had John. We were just talking before. It'll be 3 years in June. So we're pushing that, but this was the perfect time. You get the book out, Fenway Punk. We wanted to talk about that, obviously, and relive some of those days. And we've seen you a couple times since, though. We saw you, I think, at the Have Heart show in Boston a couple years ago. And then we've been down to the record store. Anthony and I have been down to the record store a couple times for shows. We saw Heavy Hex and Spite House, and then we saw Calling Hours. So we've crossed paths, but it's been a while since we've had you on to talk about music and what's going on with Bridge Nine. So thanks for coming back with us, man. We appreciate talking to you.
Thank you.
And that first convo was great. And I think the backstory is we were both at a Newfound Glory show in Boston, and I just approached you and was like, hey, you don't know who I am, but let's come on the pod. And we talked Frank Turner, Crime in Stereo, Have Heart, Outbreak, bunch of records, and that was great.
That was a great day too. So that day was the double Newfound Glory show. They came and played at Bridge Nine first.
That's right.
And then they came and did the show in Boston.
Was that the one outside of Palladium, or was that?
So they played in Somerville at a theater because it was part of their acoustic tour.
You're thinking of the Sticks and Stones Fest.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Okay.
Yeah, they played. I think Movie Life played. A Loss for Words. I went down for that. Be Well played. That was a great gig. But yeah, and actually, you came up quite a bit recently when we had Pat Flynn on.
Great episode.
You listened to it?
Oh yeah, of course.
And I had to. It's funny. I was like, if Chris listens to this, are we gonna do the label justice? And I think we did. Like you guys you ran the decade, and I think we touched on the board briefly, and I was like, I don't know if we want to talk about the board, but
yeah. Well, it's funny. I don't even mention the board in the book because it was important on some level, but we ended up getting rid of it, because it was, as Pat was saying, I mean, there was a lot of negativity and just wasn't the vibe that I wanted.
It's funny, like when we put that episode out, I almost thought about kind of trimming some of that because I didn't want it to overshadow the fact that B9 ran the fucking show in the 2000s. And the board was, for all its warts, it was amazing. Like it was I lived on that thing.
You did. You would mention it to me every now and then, but I don't think I ever saw it until, way later when we were talking about it through this. But when I lived with you, I feel like you were probably pretty heavy on it back then, 15, 16 years ago.
I mean, the positive part was the opportunity for networking. And that's what we're trying to do now at Bridge Nine, just in real life.
It makes sense. It's like Twitter was designed for positivity and then turned dark.
Yeah, stop being positive very quickly.
Same with Reddit and all that stuff. So.
No, I was going to say, I'm glad you checked that out because that's the thing. We never know who listens. But that one, a shitload of people listen. Obviously, Pat's the big draw. As a label, what have you been up to? I think when we last chatted, maybe the Heavy Hex record it wasn't out yet because then we went down to the show. But
yeah, anything
planned in the Bridge Nine world?
Yeah, so I mean, the last record we put out we did a single for Agnostic Front, which we've done a bunch of, and that's always an honor to be able to do. Last year we had a handful of releases. We had the new album from Death Before Dishonor, which was great to work with them because I mean they span our relationship with Death Before Dishonor spans back to the period that I write about in the book. I mean they were recording their first record for us in 2004. And then we did a special reissue for H2O for Faster Than the World, where we took like a proper album repress and then did their demos as like a special 12-inch. So we're not as putting out as many records as we used to, but still plugging along, putting stuff out. This year, I'm probably going to be focusing a lot on reissues and repressings for Bridge Nine because I mean we have such an extensive catalog and it is really hard to keep everything in press. So there's a bunch of records that I know are overdue for a repress. So I'm going to be focusing on that.
Crime in Stereo turns 20, right, Anthony?
It does. Yeah. And Things We Carry 20. That was 2006 was a All-timer year.
There's some good, there's some good stuff coming. So
I think Crime and Stereo was 2007.
We'll talk Trouble Stateside, which you did on Mars.
Yeah. So you got that next year.
Yeah.
Back to back.
Chris, are you seeing any delays on? Are you still dealing with any kind of like COGS issues in terms of repressing and whatnot?
In terms of just getting stuff turned around?
Yeah, supplies and I don't know if anything like that, logistic wise.
The last couple releases we've done turned around pretty normally, not quickly, but
yeah. Okay, but getting like the supplies to print and everything, there's no like backlog on that stuff anymore. All that stuff's stabilized.
It's pretty stabilized. I think there was a lot of concerns about tariff stuff and international shipping, and because we do get a lot of vinyl. We the Agnostic Front record we pressed down in Nashville, Tennessee, but some of the ones we're working on right now are done overseas in the Czech Republic. So there are concerns. Even if vinyl isn't tariffed, everything else gets a little crazy. So
you know why that is, Nate?
Nuts.
Adele's not putting out any records.
I know, exactly.
That was the big thing a few years ago.
The craze is over. Yeah.
And coming out of the pandemic too, right? Some of those big artists coming out of the pandemic, but glad to hear that's better. And that you're looking towards putting some of things that need represses out and getting back some people to get some of those things in their hands, because we're always looking to do that. I just, over this February break that we just had, put all my stuff in order for the most part, and that was daunting, and I was like, I'm missing this, I need more stuff. So no room to put anywhere, but I'm excited to see what's coming.
Alphabetical, I hope.
Yes.
Someone commented on the video, was like,
people were not into that.
Do it by genre. I'm like, what? I've never heard of that.
Like, no, I'm not doing that.
But you get a big doings, Chris, with Fenway Punk, which is out now. I think when we first heard the book, which was months and months ago. I think, Tony, you told me about it. It was like, Chris is pre-ordering for a new book he's writing. I was super excited, but not as excited as I am now after reading it. Like, Chris, it is all time. It's amazing. I listened to it on Spotify, and then I ran out and bought the book. I was like, I need this in my hands, and I actually finished it, with the paperback, the hardcover book. But when did you even think of doing this? Like, I think that's the first question I had.
So I had the idea. I wanted to write about those times because it was such a formative time for a really long time, but it's a lot of work. Writing a book that's top 5 toughest things that I've done. So it took a long time to get through the whole process. Probably 2016, 17, I was kind of like trying to type some things out, but really didn't go far with it. And then 2019 going to 2020, started doing a little bit more work and started making a little bit of traction. But it really was, I think, in 2020, when obviously during COVID and during all that time, where I started realizing I just wanted to tell the story and properly put it out there. So that process started in 2020, and I think I was finished with it maybe by 2023. So it took me a few years to actually, I wrote everything out, typed everything out. I would sit down every morning at my desk. First thing I did, and would just, whether it was 30 minutes or 2 hours, would, try and type or do research or do whatever I could to kind of like help tell that story. And then I worked with an editor, hired somebody on my own to just kind of like look at it, because when you're writing your own thing, you feel like, you need somebody other set of eyes to kind of like,
for sure,
look at it. And so helping me with the timeline, helping me with figuring out like, what the real story was, because there's a lot of stories that are kind of like tied into that era, and what's the best path to take.
Where are you drawing like memory from? Do you have did you have a journal or photos or?
Yeah,
I haven't read that personally. So
I've kept everything. I've never thrown anything out. I have every receipt. Like I have like, especially from that era, I used to keep like every single receipt in like an envelope for every month. So I had it for Bridge Nine and I had it for Sully. So I would go back and I would find old like tickets from, when I was being ticketed for vending, for like selling, outside of Fenway when I wasn't supposed to. Like, so I knew what day it was, how much, the fine was for, what time it was at. I had stuff that I had written from back then. Even some of it was, old emails. I have a newspapers.com subscription. So I would dig in to see like, what was the weather like that day? Just to kind of refresh my memory about certain things, kind of help connect the dots.
I love that you have like the citation too, because it has a timestamp, like an actual time, like kind of like when we go to shows, we have our ticket stub, but I've gone through my stuff and found like a parking garage receipt, like across from the garden. I'm like, oh, okay. So clearly that was 3 p.m. on. So
I love that we're not the only ones.
Yeah, we all do.
Because I think we're weirdos for this.
We collect. Yeah, we don't throw out shit.
I'm
kidding. Yeah.
That's okay. There's way worse things to be weirdos about than saving all this stuff, because this stuff's cool. I mean, that right there is from 2003. I'm pointing to a WEI Big Poppy for MVP. I think that's 03 or 04.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That time. Yeah, I still have it. I was sitting right next to all my stuff right here with all my posters. I'm like, oh, I know that's sitting there. I'm putting that up tonight.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. Over the years, especially like as an adult and stuff, you hear like, oh, I'd love to write a book someday. And it's like, first, you need to have a story that's even compelling. 2, you got to have the drive to do it. 3, you got to actually be good at writing it. And I think like obviously it's out now. And I've read it, and you have all those, but you still had to sit down and write it. And what I always thought would be the biggest challenge is like spreading it out. You know what I mean? Like, is it too front heavy? Is it too back heavy? Like you said, like, what is the story here? And is it too much lead up? Like, there's such a science to this that, like, this is your first book you've written, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've written small things, right? Like I did like the companion book that came with the first 9 years. We had like a 128-page book that kind of came with that box set. So like, I've obviously written for things related to Bridge Nine, or like, whether it was just writing like news updates and blogs and posts and stuff, but I'm not a professional writer. And a big part of not knowing what I was capable of probably held me back for a while. Cause you're always second guessing yourself. You always like, is this good enough? Are people going to care? And I have to tell you, like, so the book has been out 10 days and about 10 days. And it's been great getting feedback from people, but unlike a record, I mean, it's a book, so it takes time to kind of like be digested. So like if you put out a new album, people listen to it and an hour later, they're like giving you feedback,
Right.
It's like, hey, give me a call within the next month and let me know what you think. But yeah, it's a big part of it was just not having a lot of confidence, I think, in myself as a writer. It turns out I am a good writer, but like I just needed, I don't know, just to go through the whole process. I got better as I went along too.
And I mean, we're dialing it back to, early 2000s and the Red Sox Yankees feud that we lived as fans. And I'm a gigantic Red Sox fan. Nate's a Red Sox fan. Anthony, gigantic Yankee fan. The fact that we're still friends after all these years.
Unreal.
Barely hung on, man.
We undoubtedly ran into you, and I have a photo that Anthony took that I'm going to show you real quick, Chris. This will probably make the social. This is 2003.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah,
we were seniors in high school. That's me on the right, obviously, and our buddy Yanni on the left. Anthony took the photo, and I'm sure we saw you outside that day.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I was literally at every single Red Sox game from 2000 to 2013, 14, 15. I mean, we had a presence there until 2017.
Wow.
But I was physically on the ground for the first dozen years, every single game.
That's amazing.
See, I never realized
we met all
that.
those years ago. Yeah.
I thought like the boots on the ground thing, like if someone asked me when did the Sully's, web storm and all that stuff, like, take over, whatever, I would have thought like late 2000s.
Yeah, no, we were physically there the whole time. I mean, I would have people that help me run it, but more often than not, I would be there, if not at the whole time, at the beginning of a homestand, towards the end of a homestand, because I was the one by then, especially 2006, 7, 8, I was the one with the most at stake. So people that I hired, as good as they were, it wasn't their thing, right? They were just covering a shift or like, so like if there was an issue with other vendors, if there was, some of the stuff that we talk about in the book, like I was usually the one that had to be there and deal with it.
That's crazy. Yeah. It's funny. I'm thinking about it now, and I don't think I realized it in the time, but and Tony was, there firsthand for this. In 2010, 2011, I started something very similar to Sully's.
Nice.
It was called Juiced Apparel.
Yeah,
Terrible name.
Yeah.
And it was puns on players and teams. Like we had a shirt for the Denver Broncos, Mile High Magic, and the guy that we ran up, actually the guy in that photo that you saw, the other guy,
he is the guy in the
his
photo.
sister owned basically like a graphic design company, and his sister put all her company put all the graphics together, and it's hard, and it was not boots in the ground, it was all online.
Yeah.
And this is like the early days of SEO and all this stuff, and to get any traction, it's a shot in the dark.
The game has totally changed. I mean, when we were first doing it, it's funny. We've had a long time collaboration with Jared Carabas from the Section 10 podcast, because he was one of my early employees. He worked for me. I hired him as a teenager. I think he was 16 when we met. He was 18, I think, when he started working for me. But he had a MySpace page dedicated to the Red Sox that was called Sox Space. And it was probably one of the first. I mean, this was before teams were adopting like a presence in social media. So he had created his own thing as a Sox fan and had like 120,000 followers.
Wow. That's huge.
If you remember like the MySpace days, like, if you were a Red Sox fan, his Sox Space was in your top 8. And so we would do like a fan of the week with him. And when he would post something, and we'd give a free t-shirt to one of his fans, and he'd send us a photo of a fan. We'd make a little, graphic, send that person a free t-shirt. But when he would post about us, 120,000 people saw it. Like there was no filtering. There was no algorithms. It was just like, if you followed him, you saw it. And it was amazing. And, obviously those were fruitful. Those days are long gone.
Yeah, right. It's not the same now. It's hard to get through those algorithms and get anybody to see anything nowadays. But to have that, I mean, and Jared's obviously gone on to do huge things. I mean, he's everywhere in the baseball space. Somebody that I've listened to a ton.
So how do you go about like shopping this thing, getting a publisher and all that? Like the logistics side of this, I think we're like fascinated by that too.
Yeah. Because I mean, on some levels, it's funny. It's like, as a story, it has 3 main drivers, right? There's like, it's a baseball story, it's a punk rock story, and it's a Boston story. So in some ways, you're like, wow, this has 3 huge audiences that we could tap into. But it's also like and this is my concern. I hope I'm proven wrong, but my concern is like, if you're a baseball person, you're like turned off by punk, and maybe you don't care. Or if you're like into punk, but you're like, baseball, who cares? And like, so you're not interested. So hopefully, we'll rise above that. But what I did was, the first thing I did was, like I said, I hired an editor. I really wanted to make it ready to go, right? Because like I thought things were good, but there was so much more work. Really, my timeline was kind of messed up. Somebody who knew a little bit about hardcore Reddit, but like needed, my time, like I bounced around a lot in a way that I thought was natural, but it was confusing for them. So, having somebody that could help me like polish it up and get it as clean as possible helped. And then this really was just kind of in the right place at the right time. The person that I hired as the editor knew somebody that was a literary agent. So they showed it to them, and they'd been successful with books about sports. So they offered to take it on. They shopped it around a little bit. With book publishing, it's kind of like record labels. There's major publishers and indie publishers. With record labels, there's 3 majors. With book publishers, there's 5. And he was able to get a deal with an indie and with a major. Like both, we got 2 offers. And with this, we ended up going with the major because I think they just were going to be able to do more with it. But yeah, I mean, it was never in a million years would I have thought that I would have been able to land something like that. But it was through, finding the right editor, finding, the right agent, and being able to get a deal. And this was all over 2 years ago. I mean, like we got the deal in like early 2024. So like this whole process just takes a really long time.
Well, and I'd argue it's also a DIY story, right? It's not, it's a Red Sox story, it's a punk story, but it's a DIY story too, because especially early on, you're doing all of this. You're there every day at the Red Sox game. You're selling t-shirts to people, idiots like me, who are like, I'll buy a Yankees Sox t-shirt. I'm all in on that at 18 years, 17 years old. And it's going into this other entity that I had at the time no idea about. Now I obviously know about it. I've talked to you a few times, and it's amazing that you had the idea to even start the t-shirt thing, but have it turn into the music thing too. Like where do you get the time? I guess is my question. How do you do it? Because there's just so many things going on at once.
So one of the last tattoos that I got was a candle burning at both ends, and really, I mean, I don't know if this is probably not to my benefit, but I do burn myself out a lot trying to juggle everything, and that, you know, having two kids, you know, there's a lot in the air at all times, trying to find balance.
So in terms of the publisher, one question that just kind of came to mind: does that include the audio as well?
Yeah.
That's a package deal? Nice.
Yeah, so I know some places you can kind of like do it a la carte. This was through Hachette. Their label is Running Press, but the main publisher is Hachette Book Group, and so it was all inclusive.
Okay, because when you said you had two offers, like, you know, big decision making process, and who you choose is distribution. So if you're getting audio plus a major that can get it out to, you know, on a larger scale, it just makes sense.
Yeah. So it seems like it is. I mean, you want the book to be available in as many places as possible, and it seems so far like it. You know, people aren't having trouble finding it, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm just hoping people buy it. You know, like it could be in every store, but I mean, we would see this with records, you know, or like CDs, where we'd get a CD for a band, especially in like the late 2000s, and these are great bands that we were working with, but like we would shove so many CDs out, but they'd be in like Sam Goody or like some other place, and they wouldn't stick, and then they'd come back. So we'll see if that happens with my book.
Well, I'll say this: the Barnes and Noble in Scarborough, Maine had 3 copies. I bought one of them, and the woman I spoke with, I was like, "I'm looking for a book. It's called Fenway Punk by," and before I even said your name, she goes, "Oh, I know where that is," and it was in the sports section.
That's cool. Okay,
yeah,
that's cool. So I went to Barnes and Noble near me this weekend with my daughter, and they had a bunch of them. I was actually nervous because I'm like, oh shit, like, is anyone buying these? But I learned a little author trick. When you go into a bookstore as an author, you offer to sign your books because they can't return them. So if you go,
nice.
Yeah. So I went into Barnes and Noble, and they had like 10 copies. So like I signed all of them, and they put the little sticker that says like, you know, like signed by the author, but that means they're staying there. So hopefully, you know, they sell.
So the book tour, just start hitting everywhere you can, and hey, I'll sign 10 of them. I'm in.
Yep.
Well, it's funny, Chris. As I'm reading the book, I'm thinking to myself, I am the perfect person for this book, right? Like, I got into B9 in 03, 04, that range. Sports, not my whole life. I am, as we say, the Venn diagram. Like, I am the Venn diagram in the middle. Perfect. But I was thinking to myself, if I was one or the other, would I give a shit? And I think the answer is absolutely. And I was telling Tony and the other day, I was like, the detail that's in this, it's like at a perfect level that if you're a civilian, you can kind of understand that, like, all right, AN was the band in the scene in that era. You could never, you didn't have to hear them, just the way you describe them. Same thing with Have Heart in the 2000s and all that. And if you come at it from the other side, say you're a hardcore kid that doesn't give 2 shits about sports, yeah, there's enough here for you. Absolutely.
I've had a few people that are punk fans and not into sports or vice versa that have given me some really positive feedback about like, look, I don't care about baseball, but you made me feel like I was there for some of it. So like, that was very cool. You know, that was definitely, but it was hard because like, you don't know, like you don't want to get too much in the reeds with some of these details. And you also don't want to like over describe something to your audience if they're just like, why, I already know all this. Like, so there's like a fine balance of giving enough detail to give context to something, but not like going too far into the reeds.
It's funny. Those moments, I knew exactly what you were doing. Like I knew the level. It was a perfect level of detail for both sides. It never teetered on one side or the other. But like as a, music geek, sports geek, and like a business geek too, like when you're talking about the numbers and stuff, I'm like, holy shit, like people don't realize this was a big entity relatively. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it certainly was for me. I mean, with, going from making $180 a week to making $400 to $1,000 a night, early on, like that was, and again, I mean, to some people, who cares? That's not a big deal, but like that was huge. And that was the difference between, just barely being able to put one record out a year to really, I mean, supporting like a whole wave of bands. So, one thing I've always, kind of just appreciated is how much we can, and we've been able to do in Bridge Nine with relatively the little amount that we have, because like there's never been any corporate, major label buyouts, or there's never been like any, $1 million band. It's just been like, just very grassroots the whole time. And we've always just had enough to do the next thing. So and that's been very stressful for the last, 20 some odd years. I think it's a testament to that. You don't need a lot. You just start with what you have.
For the listener anyway, did any of the bands know that this is how their stuff was getting made?
Yeah. I mean, I
love this question. Yeah. Did they know? Like
with Red Sox games? Like, what the fuck?
Some of them, yeah. And the irony is that we have probably put out more records with New York bands than with Boston bands.
Right.
I love that.
Over the years, I actually need to sit down and do the diagram and see how many exactly we've done that are Boston versus New York. But it never was. Rivalries aside, I mean, I've loved Boston hardcore and New York hardcore almost equally. Like both scenes and both bands are just so good. And so we've had bands from New York that would kind of be like, oh, okay, that's cool, whatever, but like they appreciated it. They knew that it wasn't personal. Well,
you could take that a bunch of different ways, right? If say you're a New York band, you're like, okay, well, we're taking all your Red Sox money and turning it into New York hardcore, so middle finger to you. Or if you're a Boston band, you're like, hell yeah, like I love the Sox, so this is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not talking out of school when I say this because it's in the book, but there was reference in the book of like, and this might have been a typical month, but bills in the month, I think it was 2001. 1 month with like $50,000 bills from the label. It's like without Sully's,
it's not.
How would you have done it?
I wouldn't have. I mean, I was, because around that time, I mean, this is early 2000s. I like, if it's prior to 2001, I was, so from 2000 to 2001, I was making like $1,000 a month. And it wasn't even a paycheck. It was just credit at a pressing plant, for the indie label that I worked at. So, there was no money there, so like, Fenway. And even before that, when I was an artist at Tower Records. I was, again, making $350 every 2 weeks or something, like it was like $1.50 more than minimum wage, for the job that I had. So it really needed, finding this opportunity and finding that money at Fenway was the game changer.
Speaking of opportunities, I don't even know, pardon me if you've mentioned this, but was there any time where you were working Fenway and also, I mean, back, they were talking like early 2000s, right? Axis and Avalon, were those shows coming there simultaneously?
Yeah. I mean, Axis and Avalon were, I mean, couple, I don't know, 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
There was
Lansdowne.
Yeah.
Nate was a regular. We were in 2000. We were 15. Nate was old. Nate was like a year older than me anyway. And he'd be like, "Yeah, I'm heading down to the Deftones show. I'm heading down to whatever show." And I'm like, "I can't go. I wish I could."
Yeah. It was cool that so much was going on. I mean, I I lived in Mission Hill, so I was, like a 15-minute walk from Fenway Park. And I remember, Anthrax played at it was not House of Blues. It was, I think, Avalon before they became House of Blues.
Yep.
So this was probably 2003. And I remember going just to go because I thought it was, funny. And then crowd surfing during Caught in the Mosh and getting thrown out. I literally just went by myself. And I get like thrown out the side door. And there's like a bunch of like, some of the older, Boston hardcore dudes just kind of chilling on the sidewalk, and they just laughed.
And then you pop down to Bill's Bar.
Oh yeah, Bill's Bar. I mean, man, Bill's Bar had some shows.
Oh, it was a scene. Tequila Rain, if you wanted to get some drinks after. Is that what it's called? Down the
I
street.
went to Tequila Rain after a Red Sox game in like 08 maybe.
Lansdowne back then was the shit.
Yeah, and I talk about it in the book. We used to call, it was called the 2 o'clock shuffle, and we would go down on like a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night. A bunch of us, 10 of us, would come down to Lansdowne Street at 2 o'clock in the morning, because that's when all the bars closed and they pushed everyone out on the street. So lights would go on at like whatever it was, like 1:55 or something, and then like everyone get pushed out on the streets. And I mean, there's 1,000 people that are like, or more, like all coming out on the street, and we would just go to watch whatever was about to happen. You know, it was, you know, fights between people that were drunk. I mean, it was like, it was crass. It was like kind of ridiculous, but you know, we were like just looking for opportunities to be entertained, and Lansdowne Street brought it.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah. Portland had that to an extent around this time too. When we turned 21, there was a lot of, okay, the lights are off at 12:55. Everybody's out on the streets. What's going to happen? Like, you just never know. Yeah.
Shenanigans. So in the thick of this, Chris, when Sully's is popping off and you're kind of reading and reacting to what's going on, you can flip t-shirts. You know, in the book, it was like, you know, at some point you're doing it yourself, but then you would pay to have them expedited and all that. Could you turn your creative brain off? Like, are you looking for like, because I remember when A-Rod hit the ball out of Bronson Arroyo's hands, the next day you have A-Rod hits balls t-shirt.
A-Rod slaps balls.
Slaps balls. A-Rod slaps balls t-shirt. Like, could you turn that brain off, like looking for the next home run shirt?
Yeah, I mean, it was me, but it was also, you know, people in my orbit. I would have people that be like, hey, did you see that? And then we would brainstorm and come up with something. But yeah, I've been fortunate to be in the right place in the right time with some of these. One that I was talking about recently was the Joe Kelly Fight Club.
That was huge.
Yeah, we made it in 2018. It was like our best-selling shirt of that year. But that was, you know, and you talk about doing a t-shirt company, but having it be online. This was where doing it in person makes a difference, because, you know, the fight with Joe Kelly happened on like a Wednesday night. Thursday morning, we were printing Joe Kelly Fight Club t-shirts.
Jesus.
Thursday, like 11 in the morning, one of my employees is going down to Boston to deliver shirts to a vendor we had down there. So we had a vendor sell the shirts for us, and then we had all of the magazine vendors. So like when you go to a game at Fenway Park and you're walking up to the stadium and you see people selling magazines in the streets, those are not Fenway Park vendors. Those are like independent publication. And the gentleman that does that, I've known for 25 years. And so I gave him all of his vendors these Joe Kelly Fight Club shirts. So people are like walking up to the game that afternoon or that evening, and they're like, oh my God, this happened last night, and this is already a shirt. And they're like, yeah, go buy it down to the corner. And where we had a vendor that was selling them. And, you know, one random person got a shirt, bought it, went into the stadium. And then Joe Kelly, because he had been suspended, but it was, you know, it was under review. So he was able to go out and pitch. And every time he would go out to pitch, they had shot footage of this guy screaming Joe Kelly Fight Club with our shirt on.
That's amazing.
They would cut to that every time for days, like until the suspension was like, you know, fully, you know, realized. So it was awesome. I mean, it was a completely viral moment, and it was just because we made it physical, you know, and had it there the next day.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, all the years doing it, standing outside in the early 2000s and figuring out how to make the thing happen come to fruition in the, you know, the age of the internet. That's amazing.
Chris, did you ever make a Yankee Suck banner like the Bridge Nine one?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. The reason I ask is I'm trying to think of the year. It was probably late 2000s, early 2010s. I went to a Sox Yankees game, and I'm trying to think of the year. It was someone, I forget who it was. It was someone in a Boston band. They brought the flag, went down the rows right up to the field and just did this. And then he got kicked out.
That might have been us, because
probably was.
Nice.
We went there. This would have been probably 2010.
Okay. Yes, that tracks then.
The guy in the photo, the guy that held it up was Carl Hensel, who was my label manager from 2006 to 2009. So maybe it was 2009. And we got the flags, and I was like, let's just go into a game and like get a photo of it in Fenway. And like we stood like, you know, like right on the first baseline, you know, like holding it up, took a couple photos, and then got thrown out.
Oh, then I was at that game.
Awesome.
And that was you.
Yeah.
And what are the
Yeah.
Just like Tony was saying, Tony, you went to a shitload of games in that era. You walked by Chris a million times.
From 01 or 2000 to 2010, I bet I went to 60 games. We'd get 5 or 6 times a year. We'd buy standing rooms day of and drive down. Well, we were there. Yeah, 6, 7, 8 times a year.
That's crazy. Yeah. So besides the money, like, do you think the DIY scrappy hardcore kid, like, that obviously helped Sully's, but do you think like the business side of Sully's also helped Bridge Nine? Forget the money.
Yeah, I mean, so I think being a hardcore kid helped us make it more of a thing, right? Because we weren't the only vendors, but we were the only ones that came from the punk rock scene. So there were other vendors that were just civilian college kids, and we would run circles around them because I think we were a little bit more DIY versed, but we also like had no fear, and we just kind of like ran whatever we wanted to do. So I think that helped us in a lot of ways. But bouncing things between Bridge Nine and Sully's over the years, like that flag that you mentioned about the Yankee suck flag, I started making flags for Sully's, and then after realized that it was a thing and that we could, the margins were great and like people really wanted that, I started making them for Bridge Nine. So like I think in 2006 I started making flags for Sully's. By 2008, we were making Half Heart, Death for Dishonor flags. Because when I was, in high school, if somebody said, hey, if I knew there was like a Sick of It All flag, I would have been all over that.
All over it, yeah.
That didn't exist in the 90s. Like if you wanted, like, it was like a tapestry and it was for Led Zeppelin or Pink, like Metallica. There was nothing on like that kind of indie space. So, I started making the stuff with slogans for Sully's and then shifted over to Bridge Nine. So it kind of like, I would do one thing for one brand and then bring it over to the other. Both brands surprisingly make a lot of the same things. I mean, they make T-shirts, they make flags, they make enamel pins, patches, stickers. So, I would try something out with one and then potentially bring it over to the other.
Yeah, one hand kind of washes the other with those, right? I mean, a lot of it, as far as nerdery goes, is pretty similar. Like if you're a huge sports nerd, you want a flag, you want a shirt, you want any of those things, a glass. If you're a fan of bands, you want a record, you want a T-shirt, you want a flag, all that stuff. So it's cool that you have one side or the other to try stuff out on. Do you typically start with one usually, or is it Sully's first always, or is it depends on the situation?
In a lot of ways, it's Sully's first these days, just because there's like a different level of scale, so I can try it out a little bit more with something related to sports usually, or something that's like Boston centric. But some things like, we'll make like, for Sully's, like we made Christmas ornaments, and I'm like, oh shoot, like these worked out really well. Like that might not be something that I would make, for Bridge Nine, but it might, so like it gives me an opportunity to kind of like try it over here and then bring it over. I mean, now we're doing that a lot with my daughter's brand, where we find something that works for Sully's and we try and apply it to her brand too. So, a lot of it is, kind of like interactive.
When you're making those decisions too, are you just like rolling the dice initially on that first move? Okay. I was going to say, like, where do you even go from there?
It's funny because in the book, I talk about how all my friends were gamblers, right? Like everybody I knew in Mission Hill was into poker, was into gambling. All of them, like every one of my friends would play cards, and I never played cards. And I not that I prided myself on not gambling, but I didn't see the allure. I mean, I get the social aspect of it, but I didn't see the allure of it. And I'd be like, yeah, I don't gamble. But the reality was I was probably gambling more than any of them, but it was on different things. Like I wasn't playing cards, but I was gambling on records and vinyl and bands. And we have put out records with over 100 bands, but you don't talk about all 100 of them. Like there's definitely some bands that just didn't hit. So like, it's just like with anything else, like some stuff pops, some stuff doesn't. And you take a risk, and some products pop and some T-shirts. I mean, you make 100 T-shirts, for anything that we make, we're like, all right, let's say we make a gross of them, right? Like I got 144, 150 of them. And some shirts we're reordering the next day. Some shirts we're selling for the next 2 years and then donating. So,
and then there's the size element. We learned this the hard way.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, size. I mean, we've thankfully we've done enough for each brand where we kind of have like we know the size kind of like bell curve for most things. Yeah, I mean the rookie mistake is just getting a dozen of every size.
Right. Yeah. How many smalls are you selling?
Yeah.
Although I guess you could, but that's well, and you don't know that at first, right? You don't know that at first. You have to go through the trial and error with that, and not knowing you're going to be sitting on a bunch of mediums because nobody's a medium.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too is this is like the internet's around, but it's pre-internet as we know it. And the reason I bring that up is in the book you mentioned taking out like a $2,500 full page ad in the Boston Phoenix, I think for the Sully side of things.
Yep.
Was there any metrics to even know if that paid off? Now I'm sure there are, right?
Yeah, there's nothing.
You just like 2,500 Boston Phoenix is cool, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it was, again, these were all risks, but you know, we were doing so well that it wasn't crazy, you know. It's like, all right, we'll take out this ad, we'll do this, we'll do that. So there was no, I mean, thankfully I wasn't borrowing the money from anyone, so there wasn't a lot of risk. It just meant that maybe it wouldn't come back as quickly.
Chris to this day still does not have a bank account.
Yeah, I do, but I don't have, you know, walking around cash, you know. Like it's that was a very brief opportunity.
One question I had, which you can answer as much as you want to, but I have the unique experience of having kind of done something similar to a way smaller scale, but I always like the IP trademark side of things. Like we had a shirt, it was Pedroia's laser show, right? The whole laser show quote thing. And I'm like,
a laser show shirt too?
Yeah. I was like, how long until we get a cease and desist? Like, how much of that is like in your, at least in, you know, the peak of Sully's in the back of your head? I know like in the book you mentioned the Jesus is my homeboy crowd came after you for the Damon is my homeboy, but like, were you worried about that stuff or?
No, I mean, a lot of that stuff you're under the radar, but with that specific example, you know, we sold so many of those shirts and it was beautiful because it was literally just one hit of black ink on a white t-shirt. It was like the cheapest shirt you can make, but it was like that was the look. And we sold a lot of them. And then it got like, just like the guy in the Joe Kelly Fight Club shirt, there was like a fan wearing it and Johnny Damon was up at that. And they zoomed in on this guy.
Love it. You're like, yes.
Or yeah. And we're like, we sold 100 of them and it was awesome. And then the letters start coming and we got like, a letter from Scott Boras, who represented him from.
Oh shit, Boras.
Yeah. I mean, from the Players Association, from the brand that we were kind of like, you know, parroting. So like, it was one of those things where it was just, all right, it's over now. So we ran with it while we had it. But for the most part, we try not to step on the intellectual property of other people. You know, sometimes we'll reference a player, but we try to have as few connecting details and dots as possible. So, you know, we might use a last name, but we don't put the first name. We might use a number, but we try to like make it in a way that, you know, there's enough details that the fan is going to be stoked on it, but it's not beating you over the head like this is a Dustin Pedroia t-shirt. But yeah, we had a laser show shirt. We had a lot of. We had Pedroia the Destroyer was a hugely popular.
That's
awesome.
You know,
Killing with Shilling, that was a big one in the book.
Killing with Shilling was
the
a huge
mayor
one.
shut that shit down, right?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, we talk about in the book the mayor did not want t-shirts with guns on them being sold on the street in Boston during a particularly I think it was like a more violent summer. You know, there was more gun violence, so we agreed to pull it off the street. And the mayor was very cool and it actually ended up giving us a better opportunity. We were existing around Fenway at that time with these hawker and peddler licenses, which allowed us to sell, but they're a mobile permit. They're not like a stationary place permit. So we always technically had to keep moving after our sales. So as we moved more into t-shirts and we were doing more things with shirts, it was really hard to be mobile and have all this stuff. So when we pulled that shirt off the street, he told code enforcement, the people that were hired to kind of go after us, like let those guys like stay. So that was cool.
Nice. Building relationships.
Could have just said, hey, you're done. That's it.
Yeah.
Last straw. Get out of here. And the story might be a little different. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
it's really a crazy story. It's the fact that either thing happened and they both happened and they were so intertwined is a crazy story. Like there aren't many out there that are this. That you have the T-shirt, you have the city, you have the music aspect of it, you have all these things kind of rolled into one, and they all, one hand washes the other and makes the whole thing go. There's nothing else really like it.
Yeah, I mean, and as I was writing it, like the thing I knew that was kind of our strength was like, there are, could be a million stories about record labels and there could be a million stories about sports, but like having this intersection of music and sports is unique. So like, that was kind of our strength. So hopefully it'll be something that draws interest in it, but I don't know. The cynic in me is worried that people might be like, oh, I'm not into the other thing. So we'll see.
Going back, were you like, holy shit, there were more shenanigans than I remember? Because there's a lot of shenanigans in the book.
There are a lot of shenanigans. Yeah. It's, I mean, and some of it, I mean, we were in our early 20s. I mean, and some of it, we were too old to be doing some of the stuff probably by that point. But, when you're just a bunch of dudes living in a Mission Hill apartment, like in a kind of a cheap, crappy apartment in the city, you I don't know, you're just looking to have fun and hang out. So it kind of came with the territory.
I mean, Anthony, we were in a semi-shitty apartment in Westbrook. If we had been closer to something like Fenway, we might have tried something similar,
Oh, of course.
Yeah, definitely signs of the times. It was basically you and, what's his name? Barstool Sports. Same thing, right? Just hitting the streets and making it happen.
Yeah.
It's all about an era.
Although it worked out better for him.
He's done well. Yeah.
He's done pretty crazy. Yeah. And he hired Jared for a little while. So
He did. He took Jared from me, but that's cool. Jared came back.
So let's talk. I was going to ask, where can people find the book? I think it's fucking everywhere, Chris.
So I have fenwaypunk.com. It forwards to the publisher's page for the book, and on their page they have links to a few different places where you can get it online. Barnes and Noble has it. A lot of independent bookstores have it. So it's out now. I think the first month or so is when it really kind of like makes a difference. So if anyone's out there, definitely check it out if you're into it.
And the link is in the bio. So if you're driving, pull over, click on it right now.
Thank you. And yeah, I'm going out in March and April to a bunch of places to promote the book. We had a little launch party for it here at Bridge Nine about a week and a half ago. But I'm going to my first bookstore on March 3rd. I'm not sure when this is airing, but throughout March we're gonna have a bunch of them. So, the Fenway Punk goes to the publisher's page, but my own website, just chriswrenn.com, WRENN.com, goes to like info about the book, links to where you can buy it. If you're, other places, like if you're in Canada or Europe, places where you can order it. But then also all the events that are centered around the book. I'm actually going down to New York City. I'm going to be in Brooklyn in a couple of weeks to talk about the book. So wish me luck.
Yeah.
Well, this episode is going to come out March 2nd. So let's hit it. So March 3rd,
yep.
Brookline, Brooksmith in Boston.
Yep.
March 10th, our neck of the woods, Space Gallery, Portland, Maine. March 13th, Powerhouse Arena, Brooklyn, New York. March 14th, Barnes & Noble, Glastonbury, Connecticut. March 30th, Rosiebaum Bookstore, Roslindale, Mass. I had to think if there was a weird pronunciation with a Mass town. And then April 9th, Harvard Bookstore in Cambridge, Mass. So you're hitting New England. Oh, and beyond, right? New York.
Yeah, and the Harvard one's wild. It's like harvard.com/Chris Wrenn. I was like, oh,
wow.
There you go.
Legit.
There you go.
Harvard hooking it up.
Yeah.
Nice. You got to sign a bunch of books.
Sign 10 in each one so they
Yeah.
can't
I know,
get it
right?
back. Yeah.
The ultimate cheat code. That's awesome.
So what has the response been? Like, I know you're in this, like, it's probably the equivalent of like people listening to the first two songs, like in an album. Like it's early, but like, what's it been for people that have finished it?
So the feedback has been positive. Actually, one thing that I need to ask is anyone that does read this, especially if you're into it, please review it. Goodreads and Amazon, I think, are the two main places. But the feedback so far has been really positive. Again, these are mostly people that are in my orbit or a degree of separation away. So I am looking forward to the people I don't know, but also people that like maybe they don't know anything about this. It's, I think it is a good story. So like, I mean, I can watch a documentary about anything as long as it's compelling. So, the hope is that if you're, maybe you like Slipknot, and like you've never seen a baseball game, but like, could you get into this story and find something from it? Like, does it, the hope is that while you probably couldn't do what I did today in the same way, does it inspire you to do something else in a different way?
That's awesome. Yeah.
I love that. Especially also just resonating on that era. So even if it's not business acumen or sports or music, it's just being transported into that time zone, or sorry, that time space. It's just for anyone that's cool. It's just time. It's time travel.
Again, like, I mean, that was a magical time. I mean, 2004 might have been tough for some of us that might be Yankees fans, but
yep.
You can at least
I'm
think
leaving
about
this. No.
you could think about 2003 and Aaron Boone hitting home runs in the ALCS.
They lost that World Series though. It's
Aaron fucking Boone, Bucky fucking Dent. Let's go.
Yeah. So it's the feedback has been really positive so far, but it's early, so we'll see.
Could you see this as a movie?
You just took the words right out of my mouth, Anthony.
And we didn't even. That wasn't even a question we had.
I was going to say Netflix special. So yeah, we're all circling around the same thing.
I think it would be very cool. I know that sort of thing. It's kind of like wanting to be a baseball player when you're 8 years old. There's a lot of things that people might be into story wise, and it just never goes anywhere. So, my hope is that someone does want to do something with it, but we'll see. It is. In terms of like the story, I mean, I've had people tell me like, I can see these scenes, I could see this in a movie. I could see this,
100%.
This is something that really happened. So I think it does tell, there is a good story there. So there's potential, but we'll see.
I mean, the 2 a.m. Boston scene, I want to see that scene.
There's a big playground to play with here too, right? It's the music and it's the sports aspect of it. So you could have some fun with that visually. I mean, who doesn't love seeing the Sitco sign in a movie? I know I do.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I referred to this as like the Sandlot for punks. So I could kind of see that, where you have like this group of friends that are kind of like going through something for a period of time, and then they all go off and go on to other things. So,
and if it was directed in that style, that'd be perfect. Sandlot / Stand By Me with the narration, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, there's already a movie about the 2 a.m. scene, Boston Beatdown. It's already been done.
Yeah.
Chris, who would play young Chris Wrenn in the movie? Timothy Chalamet?
It's funny. So that his name got thrown up when we were, when we did, but it's just because he's like the hot shit actor right now.
He is the hot shit.
I don't know if he'd be the guy. I honestly don't know. I mean, I was 23, 24, 25 back then. So you tell me who's,
We'll brainstorm and get back to you.
6'1" and dark hair with.
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know.
We'll find somebody. I'm sure there's somebody. Yeah. Or it could be the career defining role for somebody too. I mean, shit. You've got some stuff coming up at the record store as well. And actually, by the time this comes out, it might be full. But the show on the 7th, the mystery show.
This, let me tell you guys, if you're not there, you're gonna be bummed. So,
man.
So the whole premise is Iodine Recordings is putting out a book basically about, stickers and, in the hardcore punk space. And is it a book release party basically? And there's 2 mystery bands. By the time this comes out, maybe, are you announcing the band's day of? We
may announce it as we get closer. Because like anything, like when we did Agnostic Front, we didn't say, hey, Agnostic Front is coming and they're only going to play songs off their first 2 records and it's going to be a full set. And oh, by the way, half the band is going to be members of Slapshot and SSD Control, so it took a while. That did sell out, but, it took longer than I would have expected. And this is a similar deal where we're selling tickets, but I mean, there's going to be people that are going to be just utterly devastated that they missed out on this. So, we've done a lot of shows here at Bridge Nine, from Newfound Glory and American Nightmare and, Cave-In and H2O and Agnostic Front and 10 Yard Fight. So like, it's kind of, in that kind of vein. So yeah, but this one we have not announced. But this book is, it's hardcover. It's beautiful. It's all stories related to stickers that are made in the hardcore and punk scene. I have a page in it that kind of like talks about Bridge Nine and how stickers played a role in ours. So it's kind of serendipitous that my book came out at the same time. But the book is the ticket. So you come, you buy the book, and then you're on the guest list for the show.
I have a question about that show. You can cut this. It's not the bands. It's hang on after. I have a question about that gig. All right, I got a music related question, and it just hit me. Just we're thinking of all these old stories and whatnot. Who was the last band you staged for, Chris? At 50 years old. Well, probably wasn't at 50, but who?
No,
who
no.
was...
So yeah, I mean, I'm 50 now.
That's what I mean.
It's been a minute, but it's probably. I mean, it was definitely in my 40s, and it was definitely, like, ooh, he's too old to be doing that.
The idea of that, like, there were small things. Like, my daughter dropped something today, and I was like, "Can you pick?" No, I dropped something, and I was like, "Can you pick that up to my?"
Oh man.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've heard of people my age and maybe a little older that like they've like jumped from 4 or 5 feet and like they rupture things in the legs. Like so. I would not do it today. I'm recognizing my limitations, and also because like everything would stop for me if like all of a sudden I was on crutches. So I've always kind of had to play it a little bit safer. Even though I'd make really dumb decisions like jumping from really high places at hardcore shows, I've tried to kind of reel back, kind of pull some of that back.
That's smart. As
infamously in the was it the Live for This video?
That was the Hatebreed video, right? Was it there was 2 videos. There was the I Will Be Heard, and was it Live for That?
There was one off Rise of Brutality that I remember like message boards like Chris Wrenn jumped from the balcony or something.
Dude, that was so we went, it was like a staged show, right, for Hatebreed, and it was like meet at this venue and they're gonna play this song a bunch of times and they're gonna, film people going nuts. And it was a lot of fun. But me and Lou from Sub-Zero were like the 2 scouted stage divers. So like, basically they brought us to like jump off the balcony, and I jumped, like front flipped off a balcony, and like they did it in slow-mo. It was actually, it was awesome. I loved it. But Lou though, I mean, that dude jumped. I mean, I think he hit the ceiling. Like he just like, I mean, I thought my jump was cool. His was like insane. But yeah, I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever done it from that high, and I'd be scared to death to do it now at 41. So,
it might have been This Is Now. It might have been This Is Now. I'm looking at the track list now. That's crazy. Yeah, we're not doing that now. It is tempting. Like you'll see a set and you'll usually see a cover or something like, oh, that'd be fun to relive the magic, but not happening.
Yeah. No. Well, so I did one. I mean, in my probably late 30s at a Newfound Glory show. And I was way too old to be doing it then. But like, can you imagine like if I jumped off a stage and like, I don't know, broke something? It's like, Chris Wrenn, the 50-year-old, guys like hurting, like it just it was so
yeah. Oh man.
Well, that's my day job. I can help fix people. So if that does happen and you're in the area, I'll help out.
Yeah. Tone's on the sidelines.
Got a connection.
Yeah. So the book's Fenway Punk. Show's coming up at Bridge 9. Go check all that out. All that stuff is in the show notes. So you can click on all of it there. Chris, this has been a blast talking with you again to hear the story about how the book came together, and really, really stoked for all the stuff that's coming down, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad to come back. Thank you for having me back on the show.
You couldn't have come on with like 3 better people that lived both sides of this. And we'll intro all this before this interview even starts. But like, if you haven't checked out the book, do it. Like, go do it. If you've listened to this podcast, go do it. You're going to love it.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Chris.
Absolutely.
See you next time.
Thank you for listening to Patio Slave. We are at Patio Slave on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the places that you can find us on social media. Facebook, Patio Slave Podcast. YouTube, Patio Slave Podcast there. Email us at patioslavepodcast@gmail.com. And hey, if you want to become a supporter, click on the link at the bottom of the episode and give us $1, give us $5. It keeps the lights on, keeps us going. We really appreciate that stuff. Thank you.